It's Kevin with the New Warehouse podcast, and I am here, ProMat 2025, on the floor, and I am in the Roboteon booth, and I'm joined by Dan Gilmore, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Roboteon, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Roboteon, kind of what they had going on in the booth here this week, and also some of the feedback that they've gotten throughout the week as well. We're recording this on the last day, so I'm sure they've had a ton of conversations. We're going to hear a little bit about that. So, Dan, thanks for welcoming me into your booth this time.
Kevin, glad to have you and look forward to a good conversation.
Definitely. So let's kick it off here. Give us a brief overview of Roboteon.
Okay, so Roboteon is a Micro-based software platform. We call it the warehouse robotics fulfillment platform that helps companies achieve their warehouse automation and robotics goals faster and better. We do that through a whole bunch of capabilities, but kind of summarized by the fact that we help companies to integrate, manage, orchestrate, and optimize their robotic-oriented fulfillment flows. And here at the show, we're not just talking about it, we're showing it live here with a very fantastic demo that's carried a lot of weight for us all this week at the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how the week has gone.
Yeah, it's good. We're in the Lakeshore Hall here, which is a new hall, but the traffic was very good for the 4 days of the show. A little slow here today on the last day, of course, as it always is. But we had a lot of really good conversation. The volume was very steady Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and all told, we're very pleased with the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's great to hear, definitely. And we definitely see here in the booth kind of robots, a couple different types of robots. So tell us a little bit about how you set up the booth and what you have going on here.
Yeah, we've got a very nice display size here, as you see, and nice flooring and everything. There's robots to work. So we're showing a number of different capabilities. We have, I think, 5 or 6 different AMRs, autonomous mobile robots from different vendors of different types, all operating off of the one single platform. And that's kind of the nature of interoperability, which is one of the main advantages that we bring to the table, just one of the main advantages. We've got a couple of robotic picking arms, again, from different vendors, and we're synchronizing, even just here at the show, we're synchronizing the movement and the picking activity of all these different types of equipment from different vendors on one single platform. If we had time to go over and look at the screen, you could see all of these assets in place and moving around from different vendors. So we've talked to a lot of different folks and said, is anybody else doing anything like this at the show? And the answer we keep getting back is no. So we're very pleased with how things came out here. And we had a series of these demos, about 10-minute demos at the bottom of every hour, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, et cetera, and had a nice crowd for every one of them, and people stayed. We're really interested in what we're doing because it's very different than the rest of the market is providing.
Definitely, and definitely a critical need, I think, because one thing is for certain in the conversations I've had this week, I'm sure a conversation you had too, and just walking around here, even looking around, we're surrounded by robots, right? We're surrounded by automation, robots, and Roboteon is kind of bringing those together, right? Whether they're from one manufacturer or another manufacturer, it's allowing kind of that integration and interoperability, as you said, to kind of come together. So tell us a little bit about some of the conversations you've been having here, and what are some of the people that are in attendance? Maybe they have robots already, maybe they're looking at multiple different solutions, and they're thinking about how are they going to work together. What are some of their maybe concerns or challenges that they're facing, and how do you address that?
Yeah, it's a big question. So a couple things. First off, just getting this out of the way, everyone's concerned about the labor situation, the shortages that's driving wages up. A lot of it has been the thing that doesn't get emphasized enough is when you don't have enough people in the distribution center, you have challenges getting enough product out the door to meet your service agreement, or you're reluctant to take on new business because you don't have the distribution capacity. And that's where automation generally and robotics specifically can play a important role. So if I had to segment, the interest in automating in some way, especially with robots, mobile robots especially, is very high. But if I had to, I talked to dozens of customers here at the show, and if I had to segment those customers into 4 or 5 different sort of categories, by far the number one category is want to automate, get pressure from the C-level to do something in terms of automation and robotics. Not really sure where to begin, not sure what the use cases are, a lot of vendors out there, how do I navigate that, how do I build the business case? So I feel like there is this pent-up demand that is growing and growing and growing, awaiting some breakthroughs, and part of it's the relative lack of consulting expertise that's out there in the marketplace today to help companies answer those kind of questions. Right. But I feel like once those issues get addressed, there's going to be a tsunami of sorts of movement to robotics, and it's going to be a challenge for everyone in the industry to keep up. So I think the message is great interest, great opportunity, not sure what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a great point there, because there is, this idea, and I've heard some similar conversations too, where, C-suite is saying, we need to automate, we need to look at robots, right? And then people down on the lower level that have to figure that out are kind of like, where do we start? How do we begin that? So I think there's definitely some educational component there. So there's some awareness component. But like you said, some of the technologies are advancing so rapidly, right, that there's probably a limited scope of people that really know how to apply them effectively, like you said, on the consulting side, right? And that they have that background to be able to do that. So from Roboteon's perspective, if you're in that category where, we need to automate, I'm not quite sure how we're going to figure out how to automate yet, do you engage Roboteon early on in the process? Or once you get automation, at what stage of the process does Roboteon kind of come into play?
It varies, of course, by the scenario, but
Sure.
by the situation, but in general, as early as possible. So first off, a lot of people don't understand all that goes into the software. The ROI really comes from the software, not the hardware. And the hardware is becoming increasingly commoditized. There's great products out there. We work with many different robot manufacturers, but really, it's the software that's going to deliver the integration and deliver the ROI. First off, we bring great domain expertise to the table here. So founders of Roboteon and many of the senior leadership have deep experience in the WMS industry. A lot of the challenges has to do with integrating robotics with WMS or related software, and so we can help you early on understand what the challenges are going to be, what we can do, how we can help you. So to your question about how do you engage Roboteon, or what stage of the process, our tool allows you to very easily set up with our help, very easy to set up what your warehouse layout is in terms of aisles and zones and slotting and product snapshot and all of those kind of things. And then you can do a series of what if analysis in terms of, well, what, this many robots and this many humans. Well, what if I back that down a little bit and go a little bit more humans, a little bit less robotics? How do I compare different vendors? They all have different speeds and feeds in terms of how fast they move and things like that. Some assumptions about pick rate. Is it going to take me 20 seconds per pick or 30 seconds per pick? And if I expect it to be 20, but what I only realize 30, but I only realize 20, so I still have an ROI from the investment, even if it doesn't quite hit the expectations that I thought. So customers absolutely love our simulation tool. It allows them to do this kind of what if analysis and scenario planning, and then that after figuring out, using the tool to help figure out what the design of the system is going to be with humans and robotics, that information in terms of cost per pick and dwell time and other metrics flows right into the business case development, so that you can take it with confidence because it's been vetted out in terms of the simulation.
Yeah, very interesting there. And I think, it makes sense to get kind of an overall view of what's going on here. Like you mentioned, get the layout right and understand that, and then be able to see these different scenarios on how they can unfold. And I think getting that baseline and foundationally, putting Roboteon in place and engaging with Roboteon early, right? Even if you're just going after one robotic solution to begin with, right, is going to make you better off in the long term as you start to add additional solutions, right, start to expand upon that and scale more with automation and robotics as well.
If I could just make one quick comment, another reason for engaging us early is we're hardware agnostic. We work with many of the leading robot manufacturers already, but we are vendor independent from an OEM perspective. So often you get down a path where somebody just looking for a single solution, right? Their hardware. We're going to help you sort out and compare one vendor to another in terms of the results, which is very helpful early in the state process, not way down where you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. So I guess tell us, if for contrast, right? I mean, tell us if, someone starts to work with a robotics solution provider, they start to bring robots into their operation, they don't get something in place like Roboteon to begin with. What are some of the roadblocks they might run into down the road?
Well, it's really just a matter of capabilities, and a couple of different ways to answer that question. First off, the level of software capability that's available from the robot OEMs varies dramatically, from fairly sophisticated picking type applications to next to nothing. So first thing you have to recognize is, what are the kind of capabilities that I'm going to need to make this a success. And that starts with the integrations we talked about. We have a whole portfolio of execution applications, case picking, eaches picking, pallet picking, replenishment, cluster picking, all those kind of things. Where is those execution software capabilities going to come from? They may not be available from the robot manufacturer that most catches your eye in terms of cost and specs and those kind of things. Then you got to do the hard work of the integration, and a lot of these projects go a little bit sideways, sometimes a lot sideways, because for some reason they can't ever get the integration right. And we just don't, I'll say we don't understand that. If you go with Roboteon, the integration can be done and done well. And then you get to the whole interoperability things the robot vendor just want to sell what they can right now, right? And understandably, of course. And often that's the best scenario there. But you also got to be thinking long term. So one of the examples I like to give is that, say, a given company buys 30 robots in 2025 and successfully deploys them, et cetera. But then 2 or 3 years down the road, they make an acquisition, business is growing, whatever. They need some more robots. They need 20 more robots.
Yeah.
But they have they found in the interim when there's lots of development going on, vendors coming in and out of the market, all those kind of things. For whatever reason, they have another AMR vendor that they'd like to use, but it's different than the one they started with in the first 30. So what do you do then? So do I run parallel systems? I got some orders go to this one, some orders go to that one. Do I do a bunch of custom coding to try to make them work together? Do I abandon my initial investment and go with the ones that I like a little bit better today? Well, no to all of those things or whatever, because with a platform like the Roboteon delivers, we can have the 2 different types of robots work together as if they're a single fleet. And so we're going to intelligently assign the orders to both of the robot types, regardless of what the manufacturer is, but it could be based on capability. So maybe one new robot has a higher payload capability. Obviously, those orders heavier orders should go to that type of robot.
Yeah.
If it's, et cetera, et cetera. So there's just a myriad of different issues that need to be addressed in terms of the software, and you need to understand where those capabilities are going to come from, and do they have a platform that can really help you from end to end.
Yeah, interesting point there. And I'm curious too, have you heard the show or just in general, because I've been hearing some conversations from people too where they've gone and they've implemented these automation systems or robots, and they're not quite realizing the ROI that they were expecting on that, and they're trying to figure out why. It sounds like maybe part of the issue might be integration, right? But are you hearing any of those conversations going on this week where people are saying, we do have automation, we do have robots, but it's just not quite working out how we expected, or maybe how it was even sold to us?
Yeah, a number of those conversations.
Yeah.
And it's somewhat amazing to me and personally and Roboteon generally that some of these integrations just takes months and months to get them right. We just don't kind of understand that in terms of what the trouble is. But yet here people are coming to the table and saying, we thought we were going to get X and we're getting X minus 40% or whatever the number happens to be. So there's no one explanation to it. Integration certainly is one of the factors. Sometimes it's just the flow itself was not designed well. So we talked to one goods-to-person technology vendor, and their own controlled system performs usually very, very excellently and meets what was expected for the project. But the total system throughput is not what they expected, because it's the whole flow into and out of the goods-to-person box, if you will, is not quite right. And so, people are waiting on product to come. So the picking out of the goods-to-person picking system is going fine, but the total flow is not going so well. And so not only is that often a software issue that needs to be addressed, but again, our simulation tools can come in and help people understand, all right, this is what it should be. Why isn't it that way? And provide a lot of insight that help companies get out of that. So it's a big problem. It's one of the things that's holding back adoption in the industry a little bit, is that some of these implementations are like I think said before, going a little bit sideways.
Yeah.
But I feel confident that folks like ourselves, as well as others, as well as the manufacturers themselves, are going to address those, and then you're going to see this pent-up demand really just get come like a big wave of adoption.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think that it is interesting because I think I heard somebody earlier this week tell me too that some of that bad implementation, right, or it has left a bad taste in some customers' mouth where they're not sure if they want to do more with automation, right? And I think that's understandable, right? But exploring that, investigating that, and it sounds like Roboteon can kind of help maybe patch some of those mistakes maybe that were happen and fix some of those things. I think is important because, like you said, this there's going to be this wave, right, of automation, and I think we see it here this week, right? I mean, it's all over us. So I mean, we're surrounded by it as we're talking right now, and wherever we walk, we're surrounded. There's a robot over our shoulder at some point, right?
I want to make a real quick point. I don't want to paint a picture that none of these implementations is going well. A number of them are doing just fine and meeting their goals and all of that. But there is a segment that they're not going so well, and that's what we're really looking to address.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, as we know as consumers too, right, the bad experience gets amplified more, right? So we want to make sure that we're creating that awareness, definitely. And I think, talking to you, it sounds like with Roboteon, like it can help to make sure that integration is smoother, and just the overall implementation, the overall adoption of that automation, robotic solutions can go a lot smoother for the end user. So what would be your advice for people who are looking maybe in that first category that you kind of described, where they need to look at automation and trying to figure out how to navigate that? What would be your advice for the first step to take?
Yeah, well, reach out to Roboteon any way you can. Certainly our website has various contact us or more information type of links and emails or whatever. So we would get on a call and do an introductory discussion and understand, is this a new project, or is this fixing an existing project? Is it a greenfield site? Is it a brownfield site? All the kind of key questions that, in terms of determining what the answer might be. And then once we kind of pass that, initial, and they're feeling companies are feeling us out too. What are your capabilities? What can you do? What support? What do we have? A great graphic of our solution architecture that's very nicely summarizes what we do and what we integrate with and how we do that. Probably share that with the prospect. But then we get into a more detailed what's called discovery call. And that's where you get into both the operations and the IT side of the equation. You get a little more granular in terms of what's happening right now or what the plans are, what et cetera, what it happens to be. And if all that goes well, then we're probably going to start moving into the use of the simulation tool to help them, and us as well, better understand what the real opportunities are, what the options are, what are the attributes they can do, trade-offs, vendor A versus vendor B versus vendor C, all of those things. And it just makes for an intelligent path from design all the way in the end through implementation to get the situation right for the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice there, and a great way to go step by step and understand that. So it sounds like if people need to automate, they're looking at robots, they should definitely engage with Roboteon. So what's the best way to engage with you? What's the best way to learn more information?
Yeah, just go down to roboteon.com. That's roboteon.com, and a lot of information out there. One of the things I didn't get a chance to mention is we have certified integration with SAP Extended Warehouse Management System, EWM. I think we're the only warehouse automation software company that has that. I believe that to be the case. And that's a big deal. There are tens of thousands of EWM users out there, and we've now got a certified integration of our robotics platform with that SAP capabilities. And just give anybody, and there's lots and lots of SAP customers that would be interested in automation. So that's one point I just wanted to make out there. And we have a whole section on our website related to that. But just go out to roboteon.com. We've got a lot of materials out there, some white papers, some brochures, some video, podcasts, some blogs, a lot of information out there. And you'll learn more. And then if you want to engage, there's numerous ways to click on this, and we'll call you, or you call us, or email us, or however it happens to be. But it won't be too hard to find us, and we'll follow up very promptly.
All right, great. And we'll definitely put all that information in the show notes and also at thenewwarehouse.com as well, so people can easily find it. So, Dan, thank you very much for having me in your booth today.
Kevin, it was a pleasure. Thanks for joining me as always.
Always a pleasure.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesAreSexy.com and get your own.